A woman's body has invisible boundaries that she guards more carefully than her phone password. And here's what nobody tells you. When she starts letting those walls down in specific places, she's not just being friendly, she's already emotionally invested in you. And I'm about to show you exactly where those places are and what they mean. Before you assume this is just another surface-level relationship video, let me hit you with something that changed how I understood attraction entirely. A study from the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior found that women have significantly smaller, intimate zones than men, meaning we're far more selective about who enters our personal space. But here's the twist. When a woman repeatedly allows a specific person to touch certain areas of her body, her brain releases oxytocin at levels comparable to mothers bonding with their newborns. That's not an exaggeration. That's neuroscience. So, what does this mean for you? It means that physical touch isn't random. Women are constantly and often subconsciously communicating their emotional state through the access they grant to their personal space. And most people are completely oblivious to these signals. I've watched countless men fumble through dating, missing the green lights flashing right in front of them. I've seen women practically screaming, "I trust you," with their body language, while the guy in question remains as clueless as a goldfish at a TED Talk. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on something most people never consciously think about. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which touch zones indicate genuine emotional investment and why she's letting you in when she keeps everyone else at arm's length. But here's what makes this truly interesting. Some of these areas are so subtle, so seemingly innocent, that you've probably already experienced these moments without recognizing what was actually happening. And one particular zone, which I'll reveal in the final section, is so significant that relationship psychologists consider it the ultimate indicator of emotional surrender. Let's start with something that seems completely ordinary, but carries more weight than you'd ever expect. Let me explain something fascinating about human vulnerability. The inner wrist is one of the most exposed and sensitive areas on the entire body. It houses major blood vessels, nerve endings, and quite literally, your pulse. Throughout history, this area has been associated with life force itself. When a woman allows you to touch her inner wrist, or when she exposes it toward you during conversation, something significant is happening on a psychological level. Dr. David Given, a renowned anthropologist who has spent decades studying nonverbal communication, points out that exposing vulnerable body parts is a primal trust signal that predates language. Think about it this way. When you're around someone who makes you uncomfortable, your instincts tell you to protect your vital areas. You cross your arms, you angle your body away, you create barriers. But when genuine comfort exists, those protective mechanisms dissolve. I once observed a friend at a coffee shop with a guy she'd been dating for a few weeks. She was so animated in conversation that she kept reaching across the table, wrist exposed, occasionally even resting her hand with her palm facing upward near his coffee cup. She had no idea she was doing it, but her body knew exactly what it was communicating. Here's the thing that most people miss. The inner wrist touch isn't usually dramatic, it's subtle. Maybe she's showing you a bracelet and lets your fingers linger on her wrist. Maybe she's guiding your hand somewhere and you feel the soft inside of her forearm against your palm. These moments feel accidental. They're not. A woman who is emotionally guarded will instinctively pull away from wrist contact or avoid exposing this area entirely. But when she's already yours emotionally, she won't even flinch. She might even lean into it. The research backs this up. A study published in Emotion Journal found that touch to vulnerable body parts activated brain regions associated with trust and social bonding significantly more than touch to neutral areas. The inner wrist is ground zero for this phenomenon. But here's what gets even more interesting, and this connects to something I'll explain in the next section. The wrist is just the beginning of a roadmap that travels up the arm to an even more telling zone. This one might surprise you because it seems so casual, so everyday. But when a woman lets you touch her hair, you've crossed into territory that most people never access. Hair is deeply connected to feminine identity and vulnerability. This isn't just cultural, it's biological. Research from the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami found that having someone touch your hair produces significant relaxation responses in the parasympathetic nervous system. Essentially, hair touch tells the body, you're safe, you can let your guard down. Now, women touch their own hair constantly. That's a whole different conversation about self-soothing and flirtation signals. But allowing someone else to touch her hair, that's an entirely different level of intimacy. Let me give you a scenario. A woman is talking to a coworker she respects professionally, but has zero romantic interest in. That coworker reaches over and tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. What happens? She recoils. She might laugh it off awkwardly, but internally, every alarm bell is ringing. It feels invasive, presumptuous, wrong. Now, switch that same scenario. She's sitting with a man she's been falling for over the past few months. He reaches over and does the exact same thing, tucks that strand of hair behind her ear. Her response, she melts. She might even close her eyes briefly. Her breathing changes. Same action, completely different reaction. The only variable that changed was her emotional investment. This is why hair contact is such a powerful indicator. Women are extraordinarily protective of their hair. We spend significant time and money on it. We're aware of how it looks at all times. It's wrapped up in our identity in ways that are difficult to articulate. When she doesn't just tolerate your touch to her hair, but actually welcomes it, running your fingers through it, playing with it while you're sitting close, brushing it off her face, her subconscious has already classified you as someone safe enough to access this intimate part of her. Here's an interesting data point. Evolutionary psychologists at the University of Albany found that hair quality is one of the primary health indicators humans unconsciously evaluate when assessing potential mates. By letting you touch her hair, she's essentially saying, I trust you with something I use to signal my health and genetic fitness to the world. That's not a small thing. And speaking of not small things, the next area on this list is one that most men completely misunderstand. They assume it's purely physical, but the psychology behind it reveals something far more profound about emotional connection. The waist is where things start getting serious. From a purely anatomical standpoint, the midsection houses vital organs. It's where women carry the physical markers of femininity, the curve that distinguishes female form. Allowing someone to place their hands on your waist is essentially granting access to your center of gravity, your core, your vulnerable middle. When a woman is comfortable with your hands on her waist, she's exhibiting what psychologists call approach behavior at its highest level. She's not just tolerating your presence in her personal space, she's actively welcoming you into the zone reserved for protectors and partners. Here's something that fascinated me when I first learned it. Research on proxemics, the study of human spatial relationships, shows that the area immediately around the waist is considered the intimate zone, which typically extends only 0 to 18 in from the body. This zone is reserved exclusively for people with whom we share emotional intimacy, romantic partners, family members, and very close friends. When a woman who is not your relative allows sustained waist contact, her brain has already categorized you as someone in her inner circle. Let me paint a clearer picture here. Have you ever noticed how women react when an unwanted hand finds its way to their waist at a crowded bar or party? The response is immediate. She twists away. She creates distance. She might even physically remove the hand. The discomfort is visceral, but with someone she's emotionally invested in, the waist touch becomes an anchor. She might even lean back into it, using your hand as a point of connection while she continues whatever she was doing. She's not pulling away because she doesn't want to. Her body is seeking more contact, not less. I remember talking to a relationship therapist who shared something brilliant. She said, "The waist is where we hold ourselves together, literally and figuratively. When a woman lets you hold her there, she's showing you that she's willing to let you be part of what holds her together." That reframing hit differently for me. There's another layer to this. The waist touch often happens in public, walking through a crowd, posing for photos, sitting side by side at a restaurant. This means she's not just comfortable with the contact, she's comfortable with other people seeing the contact. That's a statement. That's claiming and being claimed, all communicated through a single physical gesture. But if you think the waist is significant, Wait until we talk about the next area because this one requires a level of trust that most relationships never achieve. And yet, it's often overlooked as just another casual touch. The lower back is in many ways the final frontier of trust. Let me explain why. Humans are designed to protect their backs. From an evolutionary perspective, we're vulnerable from behind. We can't see threats approaching from that direction. Our spines are exposed. Our ability to defend ourselves is compromised. Because of this, allowing someone to touch your lower back requires what psychologists call instinct override. Your primal brain is screaming, "Danger! You can't see what's happening." But your emotional brain is calm, responding, "This person is safe. Stand down." When a woman lets you place your hand on her lower back, especially in a guiding or protective manner, she's demonstrating profound trust. Her nervous system has made a decision about you that bypasses conscious thought entirely. A fascinating study from DEPA University examined touch patterns between couples and found that lower back touches were among the strongest predictors of relationship satisfaction and longevity. Couples who engaged in frequent lower back contact reported higher levels of intimacy and security than those who didn't. This makes sense when you consider the context in which lower back touches typically occur. They happen when you're guiding her through a doorway, when you're standing close at a social gathering, when you're walking together and want to maintain physical connection without holding hands. Each of these contexts communicates something protective and intimate. The lower back touch says, "I've got you. You can relax because I'm here." What's particularly telling is when she initiates the lower back touch. Some women will actively back into your hand or position themselves so that your hand naturally falls to their lower back. This isn't coincidence, it's orchestration. She's creating opportunities for this specific type of contact because something in her craves that sense of protection and connection. I had a conversation with a friend who had been dating someone for about 2 months. She mentioned casually that she kept finding excuses to walk ahead of him slightly, not to be rude, but because she wanted to feel his hand on her lower back as they moved through spaces together. She didn't even realize she was doing it until I pointed out the pattern. Her emotional investment was already complete. Her body was just finding ways to express it. Now, everything I've discussed so far builds toward one specific area that relationship experts consider the most significant of all. And what's interesting is that it's not what you'd expect. It's not inherently sexual. It's not dramatic. But when a woman allows you access here, any lingering question about how she feels evaporates entirely. The face, more specifically, allowing someone to touch her face. Here's why this matters more than anything else on this list. The face is our primary tool for communication. It's how we express emotion, convey identity, and connect with others. It's also extremely vulnerable. Thin skin covering critical sensory organs and countless nerve endings. According to research from Princeton University, humans form impressions based on faces within 100 milliseconds. Our faces are constantly being evaluated, interpreted, and judged. They're central to how we experience the world and how the world experiences us. Given all of this, allowing someone to touch your face requires extraordinary trust. Think about professional context for a moment. In what scenario would it be appropriate for a colleague to cup your face in their hands? There isn't one. Face touching is reserved for moments of genuine intimacy. Romantic partners, parents with children, extremely close friends during emotional moments. When a woman allows you to touch her face, holding her cheek, tracing her jawline, even simply brushing something off her face, she's granting access to the most personal territory on her entire body. It's not about the physical sensation, though the face is highly sensitive. It's about the symbolism of the act. Dr. Dasher Kellner, a psychology professor at UC Berkeley who has spent years studying touch, emphasizes that face touching between romantic partners activates reward centers in the brain associated with deep attachment. It's not just pleasant, it's bonding on a neurological level. Here's what I find particularly interesting. Women who are falling for someone often create opportunities for face contact. Maybe she has an eyelash on her cheek and asks you to get it. Maybe she leans her face into your hand when you're sitting close. Maybe she holds your hand against her cheek during an intimate conversation. These moments are tests and confirmations simultaneously. She's testing whether you'll receive the invitation appropriately, and she's confirming her own feelings by allowing the contact. A woman who hasn't emotionally invested in you will reflexively pull back from face contact. It's too intimate, too presumptuous, too much. But a woman who's already yours, she'll close her eyes and lean in. The difference is unmistakable. And this brings us to the most important point of this entire video, a truth that connects everything we've discussed and reveals what these touch permissions really mean. Everything I've shared today points to one fundamental reality. Physical touch is emotional communication. Women don't grant access to vulnerable body areas randomly or thoughtlessly. Each permission is a statement about trust, comfort, and investment. When she lets you into these spaces, she's not just being friendly or casual. She's speaking a language older than words, telling you things she might not even be ready to verbalize. The progression matters too. A woman who's developing feelings will typically allow access in stages, starting with seemingly innocent zones and gradually welcoming you into more intimate territories. This progression mirrors the emotional journey happening inside her. Understanding these signals isn't about manipulation or strategy. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing when someone is offering you trust and responding in a way that honors that vulnerability. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Women are constantly communicating their feelings through physical boundaries. Men who learn to read these signals accurately find themselves in relationships that feel effortless because they're responding to invitations rather than forcing connections that don't exist. The body doesn't lie. And when she lets you touch these places without hesitation, without pulling away, without any trace of discomfort, her heart has already made its choice. Now you just need to be paying enough attention to notice. Now that you understand what her boundary permissions actually mean, I need you to do something. Think about the woman in your life right now. Whether you're dating someone, interested in someone, or simply curious about where you stand, run through these touch zones in your mind. Which ones does she welcome? Which ones does she avoid? Your answer tells you everything you need to know about her emotional state. But here's what's equally important, and this is something most people never consider. The signals don't just flow one direction. She's also reading your touch patterns, your comfort levels, your willingness to enter her space appropriately. If you want to understand those signals, the ones she's actively sending your way, you need to watch the video appearing on your screen right now. It's called When She Touches This, It's Not an Accident. It's a clear sign, and it reveals the specific places women touch men when they've already made a decision about them. This isn't optional viewing. This is the second half of the equation you just learned, because knowing what her permissions mean is only useful if you can also recognize when she's initiating contact herself. That video is waiting for you. Click it now before the algorithm buries it somewhere you'll never find it.